Hello there, Ray here, and what you see behind me is an automatic duping machine. This is using the new 1.16.2 duping glitch. If you guys haven't seen the previous video already, go ahead and watch. I'll link it down below. It'll explain how the dupe glitch works. And just as I said in that video, make sure you guys only use this on servers that allow general item duping. Just like client mods, it's up to you to follow the rules of the servers. And at the end of this video, I will be answering some common questions I've seen in the last video, and talk about how this can be patched on servers. But first, we'll be taking a look at this setup here for automating the process of duping. So in order for us to automate this duping process, we need 4 different things. We need baby piglins, we need something to dupe, we also need gold, and we need a means to kill them. This fully automatic duping machine was designed during our snapshot testing streams. Even though we don't have snapshots, we still do them every Wednesdays, with my other streams being Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And everything that you see here on my YouTube channel was designed live. So if you have any questions about how a certain machine was created, you can find the entire process on my Twitch videos page. And these streams are done with the viewers. And here's everybody that participated during this build. So first we will take a look at the baby piglins. What we have here is a spawning platform that is in a particular biome. This is the Crimson Forest biome. This is one with the highest chance of piglin spawning. And that was one of the questions you guys asked is, can you do this in other biomes? You can, but it's just a lot easier to find them in this biome. The spawning platform is here on top of the bedrock ceiling. First, you can only access this in Java Edition, and this duplication glitch only works for the Java Edition. But it does work for all 1.16 versions, and by having this platform up here above the bedrock, we can make sure that the mobs that try to spawn in have nowhere else to go. We can guarantee that the mobs that do spawn in will not spawn on top of the bedrock because they cannot do that, but instead will spawn in the one area that is loaded. Since hostile mobs will attempt to spawn in 128 blocks radius around the player by standing very high up above the spawning platform down there, there will be nothing inside of this bubble for the mobs to be placed on except for the little areas that we dedicated down here. This means that mobs will only spawn on this platform, and any mobs that were spawned in underneath will despawn because they're too far away from the player. So the AFK point for the player is way up here on top of this glass. You can fly up here with a lighter or make a ladder to get up there. The idea is to be really far away so that mobs spawn in, but also keep the AFK platform kind of small so it's not being a roof over top of the spawning pad, which would decrease the spawning rates. But in this Crimson Forest biome, this is not the only thing that will spawn here. We also got zombified piglins that will spawn in here. Now, piglins as well as their zombified counterparts both have similar requirements in order to spawn. And because of this, we really can't prevent these guys from spawning into our farm, even though they're useless for what we need. The way that I get rid of them is I have a turtle egg over here and have 2 trapdoors that they think they can cross in order to break the turtle egg, because that's what they like to do. And instead they fall right between the gaps of the trapdoors and fall all the way down and die. This way we can get rid of these guys because they can be a problem. And I'll talk about that later. Now, another thing that can spawn here in the Crimson biome is also the hoglins. The thing about the hoglins is they're quite massive. You can see they are considerably bigger than these guys or these guys. And because of that, we can actually restrict them from spawning by limiting the area to a size that is too small for them to spawn in. Because they are larger than 1 block, if they would try to spawn in here, they would essentially have to make sure that there is nothing big and bulky in any of the 8 blocks around it. This includes anything that is raised off of the area which they have spawned in. So something like this carpet, which is just slightly taller, will prevent them from spawning here. And everywhere we have in this farm, we have a minimal of only 2 blocks between any obstruction, meaning that 3x3 area in which they check cannot be fulfilled, and therefore these guys will not spawn inside of this platform. And that is good because they are bulky and large. Would make it very difficult to try to sort them out. So those are the 3 mobs that will spawn in the Crimson Forest, and we have those ways of getting rid of the ones that we don't want. That means the ones that we will be left with are just these piglins. If you guys watched a previous video, you'll know that the way that the dupe works is that you need only the baby piglins, not the adults, because it doesn't work with them. But before we can separate the babies from the adults, we need to first get these guys, these piglins, all by themselves. and get them away from any zombified piglins that might be on this platform. So the best way to sort mobs is to get them into a confined spot so you can easily sort them from one location. So with the zombified piglins going off to the right, the way we get the normal piglins to go ahead and run the opposite direction is that we have something that they are afraid of, which are the soulfire torches. So any piglin that spawns on this platform will see these guys and will try to run farther away from them. And we use another trick to do with trapdoors. Essentially, they think that they can walk through trapdoors as well as walk on them. So the piglins are going to try to walk through this top one and walk on top of this bottom one. This is why it appears that they are jumping. Essentially, they kind of think it's like this, and they think they can just hop here and then hop right on through and get farther away from the torches. But instead, they hit up against it and they will end up falling down into the hole. Now something weird is when they do fall in here, they will sometimes hop around because they are trying to still get over here to where they originally wanted to go. But once they do end up down here and get bored of hopping, they will be afraid of some more torches which are hidden on the backside of here. Even though the torches are not able to be seen by them, they can still sense torches through walls and will attempt to walk away from them. So any piglin here will try to escape. We have the same type of setup here. And they'll bump up against these trapdoors here and fall down into this section. And this is exactly where we want to have them. We want to have them in a confined spot so we can easily sort the adults from the babies. And once they fall down into here, there is a piston moving back and forth with some blocks on it. And this will only crush the adults because they are tall. The babies will be able to stand underneath without any problem. And down here we also have a torch hidden behind the wall, which will scare any of the little babies away from the torch and over here into this trapdoor, which I think they can also walk through, and instead they'll fall down the hole. They're trying to walk to this little platform over here, just anywhere that is farther than the soulfire torch. The crushing mechanism over here is just a small clock that powers and unpowers, giving time for the guys to fall through as well as do some damage to them over time. Now that we have sorted the babies away from the adults, we have completed one of the 4 things that we need in order for the dupe to be successful. We got ourselves baby piglins all by themselves. The next thing we need is now something that they will dupe. We're just going to be using diamond items for our situation here. You can use almost any item. So the item dupe part works pretty simple. We just have a dropper, which is dropping out the items to the baby piglins when they come by. After the piglin gets the item that you want to have dupe, then we need to give it a gold ingot. And this is done by this dropper over here, which is going to be dropping them upwards. And then they're going to be inside of this block here, which is ender chest. And they're just going to kind of squirt out to the side where there's room for them to end up in. And this will be over here in the same chamber where the baby piglin will fall into. So we'll summon in one guy. He falls down and gets a piece of diamond, then he falls down, grabs a gold, and then he is killed. And that is the last thing that we need, a way to kill these guys. Now after doing a bunch of testing, we found out that we couldn't kill them using natural means. We couldn't use just like making them fall to death, we couldn't use like wither roses, we couldn't crush them. All these things would not allow the baby piglin to duplicate the item. So we tried entity means, using zoglins or iron golems, both of which will automatically attack piglins on sight. And this did work, so it doesn't actually have to be a player to kill these guys, which was a question I seen in the last video. We'll summon a guy in and we can watch him. Goes very quickly, but essentially what happens is that the baby first sets here on top of this trapdoor, he gets the diamond, it opens up, he falls down, and by that time there is a piece of gold there for him to grab. By the time he grabs it and looks at it, the iron golem will notice him because the iron golem can only really see what's in front of him, and only once the baby gets down here, it takes him a little while to notice him. And by the time he whacks at him, he will kill the little guy in one hit since he already took fall damage. And this is what we need for the dupe to work, and the items that the piglin is holding will be dropped to the ground. Go ahead and do it again. Drops down, it gets whacked. Items get picked up very quickly because there is hoppers underneath here. And these hoppers will pick up any items that land. Then they will take them over across of these 2 item filters. The item filter's job is just to pull the ingots back out again. And then they will end up going down there and then over into this dropper. And then they'll be fed back up for the piglin to grab again. So we'll go ahead and hit her again. Watch the gold, ends up going down and eventually back up again. And that comes from this redstone circuit here. This one circuit actually runs everything. When the piglin falls past this tripwire here, it will activate the piston and the back. And we use the detection of the piglin to activate everything. So piglin comes down. This piston here will go downwards with the observer powering this. This goes into the dropping system, which drops out the item that you want to have duped. Then the power also goes over to this redstone dust and down and around, and opens this trapdoor after a short period of time. Enough time so the piglin can pick up the item. Then that trapdoor will open up and he will fall down into this chamber. And then we have two systems. This system here will lock the hopper. And then this one here will activate so a gold ingot ends up inside of the same chamber as him. The reason why we lock the hopper is because when the item gets kind of squirted out by this dropper and this ender chest on top, it can kind of dip down into the ground and end up actually getting immediately picked up by this hopper down below, which is kind of strange, but does happen. So once the gold ingot is sorted away, the other item filter is the item that is being duped, which in our case is diamond, and that is being sorted over, putting into this dropper elevator, which is sending it back all the way up to the top and into this hopper, into there, and that is where we're going to re-give it to the next piglin, so we can kind of recycle it. Now, besides just getting the initial item back, we also get duplicates, and I started out with this dropper filled up, but this was empty. You can see all the duplicates we got during this demonstration. And this is essentially where your duped items will end up. Item elevator is pretty simple. It just detects when items are in there and will power the system to get to the top. Now, after sorting out the other stuff, I also put it in a chest to just catch anything that happened to end up inside of the system. It's mostly just some stuff that fell down from the top. But by pulling it out, we don't have to worry about it messing up with our system. Now, everything in this system is renewable. We get to reuse the diamonds, we can reuse the gold, we can reuse the killing mechanism, which is iron gold. One thing that we can't reuse is the baby piglins. And that's why the player has to be AFKing at this farm to constantly be providing more of them. And when designing a farm, this is something to keep in mind. If you're going for automation, try to make sure everything can be kind of renewable or self-sustained. This way you don't have to do as much maintenance on the system. Now, the iron golem himself is quite close to where the piglins will end up, and he's actually inside of some blocks, including non-movable blocks. And I'll show you guys how this is possible. So I got it set up here, we got the hopper here, and because iron golems can be kind of summoned in by the player, the shape at which they need to be summoned in is actually smaller than the shape they occupy after being summoned. So notice this shape is nice and thin, and then when I summon him in, how he got all of a sudden quite wide. And we can go ahead and use this to our advantage. So if we put this guy down here near this hopper, we need to also make sure that there is air gaps here as well as here. If we summon him in, and we can put those cobble walls back in again, you'll see that he is actually inside of the hopper. And this is how you can get the iron golem closer to his target, which is a baby piglin. And in order for him to attack them, he just has to use his red line to see their red line. And that's where there's this gap here. It's also possible that the stuff that the baby is holding could end up falling on top of this block here. And that's why underneath we have a hopper to pick up everything and transport it into the appropriate location. The setup is simple, but this is because we use a lot of mob AI rather than forces them to go into certain locations. Anytime you use the mob's AI, it's always going to be a little bit less reliable than if you had like a flying machine sweeper to push these guys into the hole and then push them from this hole into that hole. But the advantage is you can make it much simpler. But because we're relying on their AI, it does mean it takes them a little bit of time to make the entire journey from the platform all the way down to the killing chambers. If you were trying to make a super efficient mob farm, you wouldn't want to do this. But since our spawning platform is pretty small and the total number of mobs that we can have at any one time for one player is 70, unlikely that we'll ever reach that limit. So even if these guys take their time, we are completely okay with that. And same thing applies to the bottom part here for the guys to grab items, fall down, and also grab a gold ingot. We are relying on them to pick it up, which isn't always consistent. And because of that, some piglins will end up dying with just with a diamond in their hand, or maybe they might not pick up the diamond, they might just have gold in their hand. It doesn't really matter because when they do die, they will drop the items and they'll just get recycled again. You don't actually end up losing any items. We can use the same gold over and over again, and same thing for the diamonds. And also, since the baby piglins don't attack back, we don't have to worry about the iron golem taking any damage. Now, the max hit for our iron golem can vary a little bit and can also vary quite a bit depending on what difficulty you have. So this farm here is set up to work in normal difficulty or hard difficulty. For easy difficulty, you might need to be more precise about the amount of hearts that the baby piglin has by the time he reaches the golem. Now, as I said before, the zombified piglins can have baby variations, and sometimes they will end up walking this direction, the adult or the babies that end up falling down in here. In this case, they will probably eventually make their way to here. The babies won't die, but the adults will, and the babies will eventually end up down here too. But the iron golem goes ahead and kills them with one hit either way, and any items that they drop will just end up going into these chests over here. The zombie piglins that do fall will end up dropping their stuff right here, so you can collect it with hoppers if you want to. But them falling down can kind of catch the attention of the iron golem, and that's why we encased him so that he doesn't get distracted by these guys falling. So the system is infinitely automatic as everything is renewable, but because our spawning platform is small and we still get normal zombified piglins and we still get zombified piglin spawns as well as adult piglin spawns, neither of which we can use, we really just have to wait until we get a baby. This is the main limiting factor for the farm. So on average, you'll get around 115 dupes per hour with this simple setup here. If you want higher rates, you can always make a larger spawning platform. You get more of the baby piglins. And as shown in the previous video, the best way to duplicate stuff, since it only can do one item at a time, is have a single shulker box loaded with whatever items you want to have duplicated, as it's still considered one item, but there is many items inside of it. And of course, the advantage of doing this system rather than manually going around looking for babies is you can just AFK this. And if you want to build up this farm, make sure to check out the world download provided in the description so you can see how to do that block for block. And as I mentioned in the previous video, make sure to only use this on servers that allow general item duping. I personally don't enjoy doing general item duping, as I did it once in my single player world and it really took away the fun that I had for Minecraft. I have a lot more fun designing up farms in order to renewably collect as many items as possible in survival. And this is the same attitude we have on ProtoTech, which is the multiplayer server that I play on, as well as ProtoSky, which is the server for my subs and patrons. So if you are a server and you want to avoid people using this dupe, the simplest thing you can do is just do game rule mob griefing false. So what this essentially does is it prevents mobs from interfering with different things in the world. So if I just put in a baby here and I drop him a diamond, so there's a diamond in there and you'll see he is unable to actually pick up the diamond. So this is just a temporary fix so that these guys are unable to actually pick up anything. This also applies to the adults. So if there is adult here and we throw down some gold ingots, you see he won't pick them up. So you won't be able to do bartering. And this also affects a whole bunch of other things to do with mobs interfering with stuff in your world, like endermen picking up blocks, villagers being able to do crop farms. So if you're on a server and you notice that piglins don't pick up anything, it's probably because of that. And this is a common question I've seen. Of course, you'll need to have cheats enabled in order to change the commands. So the first fix is pretty simple, but it's definitely not long term. So here is a second fix, which is this command here. I just wrote this up so that any baby piglin that comes into the world will automatically have his empty hand switched out with just a normal gold sword. Let's go ahead, I'll turn this off and you can see the difference. Get rid of these guys. So here we have a baby with nothing in his hand and there is an adult. It doesn't affect the adults. And if I go ahead and turn this on, see now the baby has a gold sword in his hand. So we drop in some diamonds. You see these guys will not be able to pick up the diamond items because their hands are already occupied with a gold sword. Now they can pick up gold stuff. So if you give them like a gold ingot, they'll pick it up. But then what the command does is it just removes it from their hand. So anything gold, even if you go ahead and kill them, they won't drop it. And you can run this command on a repeating command block and you can set this to always active. They don't even need a power source. And now any piglin that is spawned into the world will automatically have the swords put into his hand. You can also run this from a function and that way you wouldn't even need to have a command block on. But make sure you have commands enabled on your server for this to work. So I made the command a little bit better so it only applies to piglins that have nothing in their hand to start with. So let's go ahead and turn it on. That way it's not constantly changing out their hand. There is a downside to this. If he picks up any gold stuff, he will automatically have it removed from his hand. So even if you kill them, you won't get it back. Now I'm only average when it comes to command blocks. So I'm sure there's someone out there that has a better command than this. And if you do, tell me down in the comments. And I'll leave this example on the server and I will turn it off. few of you guys left some comments on my last video that sort of went like this, saying that I should have kept this bug a secret so the Mojang developers wouldn't fix it and people who knew about it could exploit it on servers or in these anti-pay-to-win communities. There's a few things to address about this, which is, first off, this dupe bug is over a week old and there was 3 other public videos showcasing it before mine. Also, the Mojang developers already know about this dupe bug for over a week as well. And because the bug was public and was being spread among these communities, somebody messaged me about it. And there was a couple comments saying that I should not have shown this glitch. And the commenter presumed that the glitch was private before my video, which wasn't the case. There was 3 videos prior to it, all which were linked in the description of that video, and there was also a bug report for it, which is also linked in the video. Most likely the commenter thought that since he didn't hear about it, that the bug didn't exist prior to that. But the glitch wasn't private, and it was even spreading among communities whose goals are to hurt servers. I try to provide as much information as possible in each video, as well as in the description, while also keeping the video somewhat entertaining. But sometimes people don't watch the full video or just see the thumbnail and title and already make assumptions. And that's why I really depend on you guys that watch the entire video to inform those that have not. And if I see one of your comments that are helping another person, I will try to heart it. Using glitches in game has always brought up discussion, and different communities take different handles on the situation. Like the speedrunning community splits their speedruns into ones that use glitches and ones that do not. Now, using a dupe glitch in Minecraft isn't illegal, as this is how the glitch speedruns are done, and even Mojang developers shown dupe glitches on their YouTube channels. And one of the Hermitcraft members, DocM, who's been playing Minecraft for a long time, almost as long as I, brought up some good points in a conversation where we're talking about showing glitches.
But it's funny, I mean, other bugs like that were shown in the past, and it was not such a big deal that everybody got mad.
And this is a good point. And on top of that, I would say if a game is well developed and well rounded, it should come to a point where people really don't depend on any type of dupe in the game. And I think Mojang understands this, and this is something that they are trying to strive for in the future. And also the Mojang developers themselves have different opinions on this very topic. Somebody like Jeb was quoted saying that mob farms were essentially duping. Let me know what you guys think should be the ideal situation. And as always, leave a like on the video as well as share with your favorite Minecrafters so they can learn about this and act accordingly. And I'd like to thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye bye!